It's fun.
Tell me what's been your favorite part so far.
Practicing soccer.
A teenage girl killed in cold blood in a park in Kentucky. We discussed the case. Welcome back to Sidebar here on Law and Crime. I'm Angenette Levy. Gaymee Paw has been described as a sweet high school student from Owensboro, Kentucky. Last week, sheriff's deputies say she was found dead from a single gunshot wound to the head in a park. A 16-year-old boy she once dated is in custody. He was arrested the night she was found dead. His name has not yet been released because he's being charged as a juvenile, but prosecutors want him charged as an adult. Once a lady fox, always a lady fox is one of the comments left on a Facebook page for Gaymee's high school. She played volleyball there. With me to discuss this incredibly sad case is James Bogen. He is a criminal defense attorney who has represented teenagers in the past. James, welcome back to Sidebar. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
James, your first thoughts on this case. We have a boy, a 16-year-old boy. His name is not being released, but the sheriff's officials say that he dated Gaymee Paw at one time. He's now in custody charged with killing her.
Well, the first thought is because it's a felony committed with a gun and he's 14 years old, as long as probable cause is found at the initial probable cause hearing in juvenile court, it'll be subject to mandatory bind over to adult court under Kentucky law. And then at that point, the whole range of sentencing should be available from life without parole, 25 years, and then being eligible for parole after that. But there's a life tail, 20 years to life, or you're eligible for parole after 20 years, and then a flat sentencing range of 20 years to 50 years. Those are the sentencing ranges that are available in this case, provided he gets bound over and convicted, which he did this in front of a bunch of witnesses. Now, in the meantime, though, I'm wondering if his lawyers, if they have any indication that mental health should be looked at and so on. And if that's the case, then they would look at competency to stand trial and not guilty by reason of insanity to cover their basis. Or if they have more concrete information, suppose it turns out he's got a very bad psychiatric condition and there were signs that he was delusional and so on leading up to the incident, then maybe they could pursue not guilty by reason of insanity. But that's all speculation, but things that lawyers would look at out the chute in this case, I think.
One of the things that I find surprising about this is that, and maybe I shouldn't find it surprising, but this is a 16-year-old girl, a boy she once dated, also 16, charged with shooting her in the head. It sounds like an execution style killing, something that you would hear of in like a mob movie or something. I am just shocked by that. I mean, I'm shocked anytime a teenager is involved in a homicide, but does that seem somewhat surprising to you?
Yeah, something like this is always going to be shocking and make you sit there and shake your head, make you wonder what's going on here. What would make a 16-year-old boy decide to go up to a girl his age that he might have dated at some point and shoot her in the head, execute her?
It's pretty stunning. They're not releasing his name. That's pretty typical. He's a juvenile. And as you said, because he is over the age of 14, he'll likely automatically be bound over to adult court to face those charges in adult court. At that time, we would learn his name. But at this point, it has to kind of go through the system. It has to follow the process where he'll go and make an initial appearance in juvenile court first.
That's correct. In juvenile court, they always have a probable cause hearing. And in this case here, because it's mandatory bind over, probable cause would be the only thing that they would go for. That basically, hey, there's enough evidence to charge him here, let it go to the grand jury. Probable cause is a very low threshold here. And the fact that they did this in front of witnesses, I don't think your probable cause is going to be an issue here. It's going to be more his lawyer's job to look at the why and see if they can do something with that, if there's something they can work with.
The fact that this happened in front of witnesses, it seems very stunning to me. I mean, if people actually witnessed him and can testify to the fact that Yes, he went up to Gaymee, this 16-year-old girl, and murdered her in front of people. I mean, what do you do with this case from a defense standpoint?
Again, you have him evaluated, have him checked for competency to stand trial and not guilty by reason of insanity. Try to look at his history too, see what you can find. A lot of times when you find psych history and things like that, that give you some things to work with for mitigation purposes, maybe, or for not guilty by reason of insanity. Like, what if it turns out was starting to show signs of developing a serious mental illness in the months leading up to this? Again, I'm just speculating, but those are things that any defense lawyer would have to look at, see if those things exist in the case.
Yeah, it's an incredible level of violence for anybody, but let alone, I mean, I think about teenagers. I mean, teenagers are kids that should be out doing teenage stuff, hanging out at the park with your friends and going to movies, going to prom, doing whatever it is kids do in the summertime these days. I mean, they should be hanging out together, not in parks with firearms. Shooting people in the head. It's a stunning thing. And we should mention that Gaymee Paw's funeral was held on Monday of this week. So she was described as being passionate about swimming and volleyball. A really sad case. And we'll keep on top of this to see when the teenage boy charged in her death will be in court. James, thanks so much for coming back. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Hey there, everybody. If you're a whiskey lover and you want to be part of a club where you're going to receive only highly rated bottles, then definitely subscribe to Whiskey Raiders' all-new Bottle of the Month Club. Each month, the Whiskey Raiders team is going to handpick bottles of whiskey that are hard to find in most stores and then mail them right to your door. And at the end of the month, you'll be able to take part in a virtual tasting where industry experts are going to provide insights and commentary on the bottle. Check out Whiskey Raiders, RAIDERS.com for more information. Limited slots are currently available. And of course, you got to be 21 or older to receive the bottles.
And that's it for this edition of Law and Crime Sidebar Podcast. You can download and listen to Sidebar on Apple, Spotify, Google, and wherever else you get your podcasts. And of course, you can always watch it on Law and Crime's YouTube channel. I'm Angenette Levy, and we will see you next time.